Hello, and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland and Arsenal podcast. Once again, they have made the ethnic do all the work, and I am hosting. With me today, I have my fellow ABW ethnic. It is Mr. Jason Davies. How are you, Mr. Davies?
I'm glad you had Davis in the end instead of Davies.
Danny makes me say it.
It really grinds my goat, that does. It really grinds my goat. How are you, pal? You right?
I'm not too bad. Did you hear Chris's Welsh accent on the end of the radio show the other day?
I was listening live, actually, okay, and he's normally a lot better than that. That wasn't his best effort ever, was it? I felt a bit bad for the guy. I just thought, not up to his normal high standards. He didn't plan it well. You know, it fell down in too many places.
7 out of 10, must try harder.
Oh, 5 out of 10, bit like his height.
Or like his football team. Anyway. Also joining the podcast today is Mr. Josh Dorr. Hello, Joshua. How are you?
Hello, Carlos. If we're going by full names. Yeah, that's right. I've let the light in upon your full name, Karl. Yeah, it's all good, thank you. How are you?
I can't complain. I am on time, like my trains. Fuck you, Fife. Anyway, and last but no means least, we have everyone's favourite journalist, Simon. How are you, Simon?
Well, I thought John Cross was coming on.
Cross fully booked, so I'm here. Sorry. You'll have to make do. No, I'm very good, Karl. How are you?
Can't complain at all. Well, so since everyone's been introduced, let's get cracking. We'll briefly touch over the Olympiacos and the Everton games. So we'll start off with the Olympiacos game. The team that came out for the Olympiacos game, Josh, what did you think of it when it first came out?
Oh, I'm having to remind myself of the team, to be honest. But Lacazette started, which I think was the main thing in here, that we kind of expected to see a bit of rotation across the side with, you know, your first choice striker being in there and Leno as well in goal. I suppose it's almost like Arteta saying none of this cup goalkeeper nonsense. They don't really have that at Man City where he was previously, but you know, a scarecrow would be better in goal than Claudio Bravo. So I think that's more of his case from that. But it was interesting to see him kind of take it seriously. We know Olympiacos from Champions League, and we've seen them many times, and it was a difficult place to go. And yeah, I think credit to everybody involved, really, that we managed to get a 1-0 win from there.
I think we're the only team to take a point or to have a win at the Olympiacos ground this season. So, you know, it just shows how well we did. Simon, I mean, was you surprised to see Aubameyang in the starting lineup against Olympiacos?
I wasn't really, because I think we've seen, or I expected from Arteta that he was really going to take the Europa League seriously. I mean, given our Premier League form has not been great, even under Arteta, it's improved and got better. Arsenal, you know, still got sort of 4 or 5 teams ahead of them in that race for the Champions League places. And while the points difference isn't too big, the fact that there's so many teams there's just so much traffic to get through that, you know, you need 3-4 teams to fall away to overtake them. So I always thought Arteta was going to go strong, name a strong team. And rightfully so for me, playing Aubameyang. I think he's comfortably the team's best player at the moment. It was interesting, I think, of Leno playing simply because, you know, even some of the biggest sides in the world, in Europe, rotate their goalkeepers for cup competitions. But the fact that Leno played, I think, is a clear indication that the Europa League is a priority. And I think this week we'll see another strong team and then rest players for the Portsmouth game.
Definitely. Jason, I know you didn't see much of the game, but I just want to ask you this question. Mustafi starting right back instead of Maitland-Niles. Did you think that was... Sorry, Sokratis starting instead of Maitland-Niles. Do you think that's more the fact that Arteta doesn't either trust Maitland-Niles to start, or do you think he just doesn't fancy him at all?
I genuinely don't know. When this has been spoken about on a few platforms recently, When Arteta first came in, Maitland-Niles is starting right back, and he played very, very well. His performances were very good. Whereas under Emery, they'd been a bit shoddy. But the tightening up of the team, that, playing to a structure and everybody having a goal really helped AMN. What's happened since, I don't know. Is it a personality issue? Is it an attitude issue? Is there something on in the background? I don't know. But it does concern me a bit. I like Maitland-Niles. I really like him. I like his talent. I can understand that, he's very laid back on the pitch. The guy's horizontal at times, isn't he? He's not an up and at them guy. He's somebody who's, he could be almost asleep at times. He's so relaxed. Maybe that has something to do with it. But I think we just got to wait and see, With the way we go with injuries, etc., I can see him coming back in sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I mean, yeah, on the Olympiacos game, we got a 1-0 win, and we're happy about that. Do you expect us to proceed into the quarterfinals? No, round of 16, isn't it, Josh?
Yeah.
Do you think our home will be able to get the job done on Thursday?
Yeah, I think we should be able to get the job done. In terms of Olympiacos' home form, kind of mentioned that it's basically a fortress over there. Away from home, they're not as strong in Europe. I think this is our opportunity to get really cement it for us and continue on to the next round. The thing that does kind of worry me is how long it took us to, it was the 81st minute we got that goal. And it was only really Saka coming on. Well, no, sorry. It's the other game. But we were relying on Saka again as a main creative outlet from that left-back position, and seeing how poorly Aubameyang played on that right wing as well was something that I think we've really taken note of. And as Jason's kind of mentioned with Maitland-Niles and what's going on with him, I think between him and Reece Nelson, there's that kind of opportunity to back up Pepe as that option on the right wing.
I definitely agree with you. So just a quick question, Simon, do you think that we'll progress on Thursday?
Yeah, I think it's all set up for Arsenal to finish the job. I think having that lead is near enough perfect for them, because Olympiacos, they're quite an attacking team anyway, but they're going to have to come out and have a go at Arsenal. And I think that'll suit exactly the way that Arteta, wants his team to set up, and they can pick them off. The key will be that first 15, 20 minutes. If Arsenal get a goal, that'll quieten down the away fans, who undoubtedly be very loud, set the tone. And as soon as Arsenal score, Olympiacos need 3 goals to try and need to score twice, and it puts Arsenal in the driving seat. So that first 15, 20 minutes will be key, but I think Arteta will go strong. I think they'll have enough, and winning 1-0 away from home is about as good a setup as you can have for a second leg.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I mean, I'm sure Jason agrees. Jason, do you think that we'll progress on Thursday into the round of 16?
Oh, absolutely. Look, I know we've struggled this season. I know it's not been the easiest season we've had, in the last 20, 30 years. But, this is a decent Olympiacos side at home. But when you look at the quality we have throughout the squad, winning away from home, I know it's, the form we've had over recent weeks, it's a big thing for us. But it's the very least we should be looking for. I'm expecting a really dominant home performance. I'm expecting us to go strong. I'm expecting Arteta now to really try to build upon performance. That's the big issue for him. It's the one thing Emery didn't do. He didn't build upon performance. And it's now, these are the games that we have to start building and really forging the identity of the team to drive forward to the end of the season running.
I have to agree with that. I think, like everyone here, I think that we'll definitely progress into the round of 16. I think our home form has been quite good under Arteta, and I think we kind of half got the job done over in Greece, and hopefully we can just complete the job once we're over in London. And I don't see any reason why we shouldn't be able to progress into the round of 16. Briefly touch on the Everton game. Jason, I'll stick with you for a while. How did you find the lineup, and just talk about the first minute as well, because after that, was you have your head in your hands like I did?
The lineup, I was a bit surprised he went for Ceballos again. I must be honest. The rest of it, fine, no problem. A bit surprised at Nketiah as well, to be very honest as well. I thought we might see changes there, but he's going for it. I think he's trying to manage the squad properly. He wants a bit more attacking play coming from midfield. And Ceballos' performance, I didn't see the Olympiacos game, but against Newcastle was very good. So, no complaints there. The first sort of 20 minutes, actually, let alone the first minute, wow, I couldn't quite believe how bad we were. The goal, okay, look, it happens on occasion, okay? What Kolasinac is doing, I have no idea. That upsets the whole defensive rhythm, okay? And all of a sudden, you've got centre halves not sure what the hell's going on because your right back, so your left back just gone MIA. You just don't know what's going on, and it was schoolboy stuff. It was a kick in the teeth for the team. But the lack of midfield dominance, we got overrun in our first 20. And for anybody to think that we didn't, they're joking. Okay, it's something that we've got to work on as a squad. It's something Arteta needs to address. It's not just Xhaka's fault or Ceballos' fault. It's a setup. It's something we need to get right. But I mean, Kolasinac, what's he doing? If he's doing his job properly then, playing that offside line, we don't have a problem. We can defend that quite well. But because he's grappling inside the box for no reason whatsoever, all our plans flushed down the toilet.
Agreed. Simon, did you have any problems with Calvert-Lewin's goal? I know people are saying it could be classed as dangerous play, but surely goals like that, you kind of want to see in football, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I saw people moaning about that, but I mean, I think we've got to just let him have that. I think it was a fantastic piece of skill, an outrageous finish. I agree with Jace completely. I mean, the defending was pretty poor. I mean, it was needless free kick given away. Luiz's header's not the best. And it was a sort of throwback to the Unai Emery era, wasn't it? Where there wasn't much concentration, there wasn't much organisation, and they were punished. Credit to the side for coming back from it. I thought Calvert-Lewin had a good game. He was, a nuisance all afternoon. He had a good chance at the end, which he missed. He probably should have taken. But that first sort of 20 minutes was really some of the worst they sort of played under Arteta, and that's probably only been the thing we've lacked from an Arteta team is we haven't really seen them do what he wants for 90 minutes. And on a couple of occasions, we've seen either a poor opening or sometimes a poor for the first 45 minutes. And it's taken half time and Arteta to get into the squad for them to turn it around. And personally, for me, I think that's just a mental issue. I think that's just a concentration issue, which this squad we've spoken about on this podcast for 3-4 years have had issues with concentration and mental discipline. And I think we still see that they need, assurances either at half time or in game to correct it. And fair play to Arteta is doing it, but we still haven't seen them for 90 minutes properly concentrate and properly do what Arteta wants them to do.
Jason, you want to come back in?
Yeah. Sorry, would you put that down? This is Kolasinac first start. Okay, and you're looking at a player who's not. I'm trying to be kind now. His biggest strength is not defensive. Do you know what I mean? He's great ball of feet charging forward. The bits either side, the final ball and the defensive side are a weakness for him. Do you think Arteta spoke to him and said, "Look, let's just be tight for the first 10 minutes." Find your way into the game. You've been off for a while, and then he lets himself down like that.
I mean, I've always thought for Kolasinac, for me, he's always looked best as a wing back. When we played three at the back for a period under Emery. He always looked best for me as a wing back. I don't really see him as a left back, to be honest. I don't see him as a viable option there. And I think the fact that the club were looking at Kurzawa in January probably tells you I'm not too sure where Kolasinac' long-term future is. And also the fact that they bought Tierney in the summer and Saka is now playing left back. So for me, Kolasinac really is a wing back. He's not a left back. And I think we see that in situations where, he's wrestling with Mina 10 yards behind everyone else. He just defensively, he doesn't think like a defender. I mean, going forward, he's great. I think, as an offensive wing back, he's definitely an option. But for me, I wouldn't be overly surprised if he was someone who left in the summer. And also, given the fact he came on a free, he's guaranteed profit no matter what you get for him. So I'm just not quite sure whether he can play as a left back in this team. I think he needs to be someone who plays as a wing back with a back three, a bit like Marcos Alonso at Chelsea. I've got the same opinion on him, who I think doesn't look good as a left back, but as a wing back, yeah, he's a great option.
Which doesn't it make it a little strange that Saka looks so good in this system? Bearing in mind, he's not even a left wing back, arguably.
No. Well, I think with Saka, I think we've seen from him an incredible level of maturity, way beyond his age, an extremely high level of concentration. And obviously people at the club knew he was a fantastic player, certainly going forward. Some people at the club aren't overly surprised that he's doing so well at left back, because I think he did occasionally when he was younger sort of fill in there, and they believe he's at that age where you can mould him and shift him around. It's different when you're taking someone who's, 25, 26, 27, who's played a long part of their career in a set position. When you've got someone who's young, as a teenager, that's the moment you've got to mould them. And I really think with Saka, we'll see what happened with Alexander-Arnold, where, when he was in the youth team, Alexander-Arnold's this centre midfielder. He's the next Steven Gerrard. He's going to play right back for a bit because he's going to get in the team there and he'll stay there. And I think the same will happen with Saka. If you're like, he's a winger, he wants to play there, he's going to play left back because he can get in there. But for me, he's that good at left back. I think you just make him a left back now. I think you have to do that.
I think as well, if you look into it, okay, we've covered him well when he has gone forward, because we know he is going to get forward quite a lot. The coverage, we've been very aware as a team, but let's slot back in, let's make sure we've got him covered. But you combine that with the fact this is a youngster, he is 18 years of age. When he goes on that pitch, he's not an experienced international like Kolasinac. So when he's going on there, he is sharp. He does not want to let anyone down. He does not want to be the guy who stinks the place up. He wants to be the guy who's impressing at every point of the game. And I think, that those extra concentration levels are really important and something we don't always look at. It can overawe some players, but for him, he just seems to have embraced it and gone with it, if you know what I mean. And it's all credit to the lad.
Do you think that's more down to, I'm not trying to take anything away from him, do you think it's more down to his coaching under Arteta, or do you think it is down to him actually, like we said, taking the opportunity and running with it? Josh?
Is this Saka? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, as you kind of spoken about, it is a case of he looks to have taken this as an opportunity he's going to get into the Arsenal side, because if you look at the options ahead of him, he's going to have to fight it out with, Aubameyang, a seasoned international who was joint Golden Boot scorer for last season. And this season is, after the Everton game, put himself back on top of that standings again. And then it's Martinelli as well, who another prodigious talent that nobody really saw coming from that regard has, I think, I would say, sewn up that kind of left wing kind of side in there. And I think in terms of the output that we're getting from him from left back is higher than anything we've seen I know we've not seen a lot out of Tierney this season. And maybe we have to caveat that we saw Tierney under Emery rather than we saw Saka at left back under Arteta, and what will happen when he comes back. But I think it's going to be a harder job than some might think for Tierney to get back into this side, because I think we're all agreed that Kolasinac isn't long for the left back position at the Arsenal. And I think our options in terms of if we ever need to get another replacement for either position on the left-hand side, we're probably going to be able to get a left winger easier than we can get a left back of equal quality or better than Saka's playing at the moment.
Simon, do you see Saka's long-term future at left back, or do you see him playing further up the pitch?
It's a difficult one, that, because I mean, he spoke to us in the media a couple of weeks ago. I think he spoke after the Newcastle game. We had that brilliant assist. And he said then, he admitted then that he wants to play as a winger. And that's his aim, is to make it as a winger. And he's still set on that. I just wonder, I mentioned Alexander-Arnold, whether he's getting to that point, Saka, where, he is so good at left back and he offers so much from there. And in this modern game, we've seen it with City, we've seen it with Liverpool, and Arteta is of that mould. The fullbacks have such a big role in the game. It's really an integral part of how the team attack. I think Jace made a great point about how Saka gets that coverage from Xhaka in particular, who sort of drops in and feeds in there and covers the space. So for me, I think his future will be at left back. I think he wants to play further forward. The interesting thing will be, as we say, when Tierney comes back. I get the impression, I don't think he was really fully fit. Obviously, he wasn't when he joined Arsenal, and then he got back, and I don't think we really saw him at his full fitness again then. So I think it's actually been quite good that he's had this shoulder injury, in the sense that he has got really, really sharp. Speaking to people out in Dubai, they were saying he was doing, extra one-on-one sessions. Arteta spent time with him in particular, like just the two of them working on the training ground, working on overlapping, things like that. So Arteta, I think, really is a big fan of Tierney. So it's going to be interesting when he comes in, what happens there. And we saw Saka under Emery was effective further forward. I think we'll all remember that Frankfurt game. But for me, I really think Saka will be a left back. I just think he offers so much there. And I think in the modern game, you need a complete player as a fullback. And, England have one good left back probably at the moment, I would say, in Ben Chilwell. Beyond that, there's a pretty open race for the second best left back. And if I was Gareth Southgate, Saka would be my next pick at the moment.
That's good. Jace, go ahead.
I think as well, okay, we're looking at pigeonhole this guy already, okay? I think he's been far more effective at left back than he has been further up, because he burst onto the scene on the wing and he did really, really well, and then he went off the boil. Now, a lot of that was down to Emery ball, so to speak. You can't fight the tide. I also think I look at Martinelli, and I think Martinelli's a centre forward all day long. I think Martinelli's going to end up a centre forward. But I think you're looking at Tierney, you're looking at Saka, you look at how much stress is on fullbacks nowadays, on the modern fullback, how Terence Trent D'Arby and the Jock at Liverpool have stayed fit. I have no idea. They're up and down, up and down. I think you're going to see Saka become, a kind of new age player. Yes, I can play wing. Yes, I can play left back. Martinelli, I can play wing. I can play centre forward. I think you're going to get a lot of interchanging of players in certain positions as we go forward. And they're at that age. If we train them well, they'll do it very comfortably.
Do you think Saka is playing so well at left back because, like you alluded to, Jason, he's getting Xhaka to drop back in for him? So and also he's got recovery speed, so that's always going to help.
Yes, everything combines, doesn't it? Good coverage from his teammates. There's no surprise. Look, I know Mustafi and Luiz aren't everybody's cup of tea, and I know there were a couple of rickets on Saturday, right? But they've covered the full-backs very well. Okay, Xhaka and whoever's played in midfield, whether it be, Ceballos, as he grew into the game on Sunday, he showed the defensive side of his game, which we haven't really seen since he's been with us. Torreira's done it, very well as well. You've seen Aubameyang cover back and do very well. So, as a team, we've defended a lot better. I just think, I think there's been some good coaching from Arteta. You've seen a guy take, good messages on board in Saka, and he's gone out with the right attitude, and he's executed very well. He's not the second coming of Jesus. I think, we need to just calm down on him a little bit. I get why Simon's talking about England. If you're Gareth Southgate and Chilwell's your only option, Saka's like a shiny new gem, and you're going to speak about him. But for us as a club, let's just take our time with him, let him enjoy his football. Let's not put too much pressure on him, and let's develop him properly.
Karl, if you could only get one out of Saka or Aubameyang to sign a new contract, who would you get to sign?
Me personally, I'd go for Saka just because of his age and what you're going to get from him in the future. As much as I love Aubameyang's what, 30, 31, something along that line. So unfortunately, his shelf life is probably 2-3 years max at this level. Whereas Saka, you're talking the next, maybe 18 years that you're going to get out of him, or you're going to get a good at least 10 to 15 years out of him. So for me, if Saka could sign a contract tomorrow for the next 7 years, I'd keep him definitely.
Yeah, spot on. I agree with that. I think the interesting thing will be with Saka, obviously he's been with this club since he was 8 years old. And there's going to be the attraction of looking at someone like Jadon Sancho, who's gone over to Germany, other young players who've done that. I mean, Jace, what do you think in terms of whether Saka will stay or whether he'll fancy the prospect of going abroad? I mean, I suppose the benefit Arsenal have with him is it's not like Sancho where he's not playing. This guy's playing week in, week out for the Arsenal.
Look, I don't know the kid, from everything you kind of heard from talk around people who know the family, people who've met him, people in the club, etc. I think this isn't this kid's not seeing stars. I think he just wants to become a better footballer. I think you've got a manager in place in Mikel Arteta who is so deadly serious about his craft. About when he was a player, he just wanted to be the best footballer he could be. Now he's a manager. That's all it's going to be. It's about improving the team. It's about improving the culture around the club. And, you've got a plethora of young players. Okay, Reece Nelson, Nketiah, ESR, as well as Saka. You've got Martinelli. And if I think you're going to... Sometimes things catch on fire. Do you know what I mean? You get that bit of momentum. You get that bit of excitement. And I think we could be that club at the moment. And if I'm Bakayoko Saka, I'm thinking, well, I'll get a new contract now. They'll sign me up long term. I'm getting minutes. I'm with a young, inspirational manager. He's taught me so much already. I don't need to go anywhere. I can still go to mum's for tea, relax, and enjoy myself. I think there's a lot of positive things happening at this club. I think it's City. You look at the whole City circus. It was a very different decision for Sancho. How would you get in ahead of the likes of Sane? How would you get in ahead of the likes of Sterling? We don't have that problem here. There's going to be enough game time for everyone. And so I think that'll be a major player in the decision. He stays.
Josh, do you think the same? Do you think that he's going to sign a new contract?
Yeah, I don't think there's a huge rush as everyone's kind of making out. There is, if I'm right, he's got 18 months left on his current contract, and it still takes us to 19. We can't lose him in a January on a Bosman like we could do with Ramsey. Also, they can't sign for another team until their contract is actually up. So from that kind of respect, it's not as crucial. I think we should totally sign them up as soon as possible. But it is that kind of case of what does the player want to do? If he sees his long-term future at left wing, he's going to be seeing what Aubameyang's doing, to be honest, because if he wants to play 30 games next season, he's not going to get them at left wing if Aubameyang and Lacazette stay, to be honest.
I mean, yeah, I have to agree with you, I guess, because surely you're going to be looking at Aubameyang, and that's going to be the decision you're going to have to make. If we want Saka to play further forward, do we get rid of Aubameyang this season and then play Saka further forward? But that's a whole range of things you need to look at, because there you're thinking, okay, if we do get rid of Aubameyang, are we keeping Lacazette? Should we get rid of Lacazette? Are we going to buy someone else? How much money are we going to get for Aubameyang and or Lacazette? There's a lot of permutations, I guess, to that.
Yeah, and we can go full 2005 and thank our neighbours on the other side of London in blue for creating a precedent in terms of how much they're paying these young players in what Chelsea did with Hudson-Odoi. The deal that he's on is just absolutely obscene. And, you know, I don't think in any month of Sundays we're playing a young player like Saka over 100 grand a week to be at the club. And he's going to see that. His agent's going to see that. And that's going to be a leverage against us. And is someone else going to come in? It depends on the sides. I know Hudson-Odoi was chased by Bayern. Bayern are probably going to need another winger again. Are they going to come back in? And this time they're going to target one of our players. It's something that you could see happening. The kid's got that kind of talent that the big teams are going to start sniffing around from the rest of Europe.
I mean, we've heard it already. I mean, I know Simon can come in on this. I'm sure there was rumours in the press that Liverpool were interested in Saka.
Yeah, I think near enough every big club will be sniffing around him because he's that level of talent. And I really think I'm firmly in the boat that his contract is a priority over Aubameyang. I think it's great if they can get Aubameyang to stay, but if at the end of the day you have to sell him this summer, you're probably going to get, with a year left on his deal, the club will probably want 60. They'll probably get £50 million, which is good money. You know, if you're forced to sell Saka this summer because he's not going to sign a new deal. I know he's a great talent, but you're still not going to be getting huge money. I mean, when Sancho left City, I know I keep using the example, but he went for sort of £10 million given his age, and he's worth 10 times that now. And I really think if you lost Saka now, you're losing a player who easily could go to Germany and in 2-3 years be worth, 80, 90 million. So I really think it is a priority. I completely agree with Josh that I really cannot see Arsenal being the sort of club who gives £100,000 to an 18-year-old. It's just not the way they operate. A, from a financial viewpoint, and B, from a way, young players just do not get that sort of money thrown at them simply because, what does it make you work if you're an 18-year-old and you're suddenly given £100,000 a week? You've got to earn that money. But I think the key for Arsenal will be saying to, Saka, look, you're a young player, the money will come. The game time might not if you leave. And look, if you stay here at Arsenal 3-4 years, you're going to play regularly. And I think that'll be the key to it. And Arteta will have a massive role in that because he's already developed him. He's already helped him. So I think that will be the key arm, will be that, look, you're playing here in a team week in, week out. The money will come eventually. You don't need to rush for it now. You're 18 years old. And he's got a very good family around him, Saka. He's someone who's been courted by Nigeria as well. And he speaks to his dad a lot. He's got agents around him. He's at the same agency as Nelson, Sancho, and Nketiah, which is why a lot of this talk about Germany comes in. But he's someone with a good head on him and a good family around him. So I really think they will take their time over this. And I think they'll do what's best for his football, not best for his bank balance.
I have to agree. And hopefully, we all want him to sign, and hopefully he will. I want to move on now to another subject, onto our manager. So for me, he's had the same sort of players that we had from the start of the season. So why is it that Arteta has managed to get much more out of these players than Emery has? Jason, I can see the cogs turning in your head that you want to answer this one.
I just think he's giving them direction. I think he's got a plan. He's got he's got a vision of how he wants to play. I think you could see by images from training under Unai Emery, things had gotten confused. There wasn't a clarity of message. So when there's no clear message, when there's no clear plan going into a game, when you're muddying the waters week in, week out, confusion and misunderstanding becomes poisonous. I think that happened, not this season. I think it happened towards the end of last season. You could see it in our performances. You could see it in the body language of players. we should have gotten rid of Emery in the summer, to be honest with you. I feel for the guy, but screw him. You know, Arteta's come in, he's got a vision, he's got an understanding of how to get there. He's looking at our players and he's playing their strengths. It's all simple stuff, but, you know, asking Lucas Torreira to be a DM and not a ball-winning midfielder high up the park in a 10 position, it's not rocket science. Do you know what I mean? You know, you look at sort of players' performances under Emery, they're confused, they're jittery. You know, it's like a golfer with the yips. Our centre-backs didn't know where they were coming or going. You look at the amount of shots we got on target. He's tightened everything up. He's put players in more comfortable positions and he's allowing them to flourish.
Josh, what? Sorry, go on.
I don't think Mikel Arteta is a genius. I just think he's got an idea of how he wants to play the game and he has an idea of how to get the best of the players, and he's doing simple things very well.
Josh, why do you think that Emery did get it so wrong?
I think the difference is the personality between the two managers, to be honest. I think Arteta's come in with a bit more arrogance. He's been, you know, at City, he knows English football. I know that you'll say, you know, some people will say, oh, it doesn't really matter when it comes to kind of players, but he knew the Arsenal structure already. I think that's a big thing, that he knew how he worked. So when he came in, he knew he kind of had that backing. This is also his first job as well. So I think he's got that motivation. A bit like we were saying about Saka and, you know, handing him a contract where he thinks that's it, he's done, and he loses that hunger. Emery getting the Arsenal job almost seemed like that kind of thing, that, you know, that's almost like his last big job. You know, it's a big payday. He's made it to the Premier League. He's just got to sustain it. Whereas Arteta, you know, he's got a point to prove now. One, we overlooked him for the first round when we got Emery in. So he's got a point to prove versus us. Maybe he's got a point to prove to someone, especially in the media, with the Pep Guardiola going, was he just the guy who put the cones out for him? I think this kind of whole thing was the main reason why this kind of happened. And the fact there's respect for him as well, which probably comes from the fact he was captain of the club for so long, is he comes into the back room and there's already that established kind of clique almost. You know, we're hearing the stories from the training ground under Emery that everyone was taking the piss out of him. That's not going to happen under Arteta because he's already got mates there. You know, people in softer services like non-footballing things, you know, the people in digital marketing team or the people in the ticket offices, they already know him. They already liked Arteta. Whereas under Emery, you know, they were allowed to breed that negative atmosphere. Whereas I think there's like a safety net around Arteta where that's not necessarily going to happen.
Agreed. Simon, I don't like to think that players down tools, but do you think there was an element of that happening under Emery?
I think the key is really what Jay said. I just think there was a confusion tactically and stylistically in how the team was meant to play. I think, to be honest, I think in the first season, I think Emery got a lot of things right, to be honest. You know, I think we can't overlook that 23 game unbeaten run. We can't overlook the run to the Europa League final. He was getting the best out of Xhaka. But I almost think the sort of everything that happened with Xhaka, you know, the fan criticism, but also tactically and not getting the best out of him, I felt like that was sort of symptomatic of everything that was going wrong. It just sort of, Xhaka looked confused. The whole team looked confused. And everything that they'd sort of worked on that first season, you know, went away. And for me, what was the biggest surprise was just how quickly that season, you know, the start of the season, I mean, it feels like a lifetime ago, how the wheels came off so fast. I couldn't get over how quickly, you know, from August to November, everything Emery built had just, you know, completely crumbled. And I think that was down to the foundations not being as strong as what Arteta is trying to lay now. I think we've seen him go in there, discipline is incredibly hard. We saw everything happen with Guendouzi and pulling him up on that. He's easily happy to bench Lacazette if he needs to bench him. Emi Martinez has been the cup keeper in the Europa League. No, you're out. Leno's playing in. I'm playing my number one goalkeeper. He's a guy who makes decisions and he sticks by them. And I think the players have responded to that, because even under Emery, there wasn't that same level of discipline. We know about the back end of the Wenger reign, again, players being indulged a bit. And they've responded to that being laid down. And I think the difference we're having now with Arteta and Emery is that it's going to be laid firm foundations of exactly what he wants to do and a bit more of a steady process. Whereas I kind of feel with Emery, he just sort of tweaked it a bit in that season and got it pretty good, almost winning the Europa League. But it wasn't laid as a long-term project, which is what I think Arteta's doing now, and why I think he's going to have more sustained success than Emery did.
Just on that, guys, if you look at that unbeaten run, look at the amount of times either Lacazette or Aubameyang saved that unbeaten run. The Cardiff City home game, the Fulham home game. Okay, as Simon said, okay, these things weren't built on firm foundations. They were built on poor performances, but having goal scorers and match winners in the team. Okay, when you come through to the Valencia games, or maybe Napoli away, it's a great strike by Lacazette. Lacazette and Aubameyang in the Valencia games were magnificent. Okay, but you had Rambo go down injured, and all of a sudden your midfield fell apart because you haven't got that B2B ability and the engine to go there. But I think as well, one of the things that we kind of haven't looked at is, over the summer, you had Darren Burgess go, you've had Sven Mislintat go. A lot of the backroom staff went as well. And so that feeling, that lack of stability must have played a part in there as well.
Yeah.
Might also be like a generational thing as well, of managers of the same kind of age as Emery. Look at the kind of core of, we almost call them like that, like quartet of British dinosaurs. Your Alan Pardew's, your Sam Allardyce's, who was the other ones? The kind of group I'm talking about that used to rotate in and out of British clubs. Alan Pardew's had to go to bottom of the Eredivisie. Yeah, he's in there now. Allardyce is still out of a job. These kind of managers of this kind of age have stopped really getting jobs, and you've got this kind of gap where you've either got like a Roy Hodgson or you've got your Guardiolas and Klopps. There's this big difference, or the young pretenders. So you've got Arteta in there now, or as another kind of young manager, I suppose Eddie Howe, who's having problems at the moment. You've got Graham Potter, another kind of manager who is of this different ilk and kind of understands these young players. And I think that's where we've kind of struggled. And as you say, kind of Simon, with the kind of level of discipline he's put in there, this is how these young players react now. They're not the kind of players that like Wenger had in his day that would self-manage. You've got to be a bit more authoritarian with them.
And they actually control games. I think that's the key thing. I think under Emery, particularly this season we saw it, but it was an evidence a bit last season. But some of those matches were so end-to-end. It was like watching a game of basketball. It was ridiculous how it was going up and down. And as much as anything Arteta's done, the key thing is I watched nearly every game he plays so far, and you can see the team controlling the game as much as they can. I think Everton, the first 20, 30 minutes is one of the few times where they've gone, oh, hang on here, they're not really in control here. But other than that, they are in control of the game. And yes, at the moment, I think the attack still needs work. I think it's still over-reliant on Aubameyang. It's not yet fully functioning. But the team is controlling games, and that's why they're looking more solid in defence, because they're actually controlling the tempo, controlling the pace of the game, instead of playing what under Emery became end-to-end football. And, we saw the games against Southampton, Wolves, 20 shots on goal. That's never sustainable. And eventually it'll catch up on you, as it did this season.
Well, it's interesting that sorry, Jace, you kind of say that about Xhaka as well, that you can almost use him as a barometer for how we're playing. That you're saying he looked confused, well, that was directly at the same time that we were playing confused football. We saw that creep in under the latter end of Wenger's era as well, that we weren't playing well because Xhaka wasn't playing well. Xhaka's now playing great again after Arteta's kind of brought him back in, and we're playing well. Is that anything, because I know you spoke to him this week as well, is that something he kind of alluded to, that
No,
performance?
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing with Xhaka is I always remember being told by my colleague James Ollie, who I work with, he always told me about Xhaka that when he sort of first came under Wenger, he struggled a bit. I think you'll probably know this, Josh, but he worked with someone like Lucien Favre, who would coach him down to the nth degree on the training ground and shift him from, stop training, right, Xhaka, you need to be 2 yards to the left, 2 yards to the right. And Wenger was very much, go play. And Emery, under the first part of last season, I think we saw he was coaching the team, drilling them quite well. But as soon as Xhaka sort of lost that, he sort of lost his way again. And he's a player who I think is a good player, but perhaps like a lot of players now, he needs coaching, he needs drilling, he needs to be told what to do. And I think he's got that again now under Arteta, who is, properly telling him how to play the role, because, Arteta did a similar role as a player. And that's what I think he's really benefiting from. And I personally didn't understand until I spoke to Granit really how close he was to leaving the club at the start of January. We obviously saw the reports that came out that he was ready to go back to Germany. He was emotionally hurt by everything that went on. And we can get bogged down in terms of who was right, the fans are right. But at the end of the day, this was a human caught in the middle of something far greater of his getting messages on social media saying, we hope your wife has a miscarriage. We hope your baby's born with cancer, this sort of stuff. And it all came to a head. And Xhaka was always the lightning rod for the Emery criticism. He was always the one who bore the brunt of the anger and frustration. And I really think, it is massive credit to Arteta that he's still at this club, because he was so close to wanting to leave at January, particularly at the start. And it was credit to Arteta that he sat him down and said, look, no, trust me, stay, wait, we can work through this. And that reintegration has almost been so seamless that we haven't really spoken about it. No one's really noticed it. It's just happened so seamlessly. And that's probably one of Arteta's biggest strengths that he's done, that he's brought Xhaka in and no one's noticed it. Hasn't been a big fuss, hasn't been a big fraud. It's only now that Granit's spoken that we've realised, wow, to get him to come back into this team was something really special, and is the biggest example of Arteta's man management and why he is so important to this club.
But I think if you look at, it's not just Granit, it's Mustafi, it's Ozil. Okay, the resurgence in the form of those three players, David Luiz as well. But he hasn't been, because he's only just joined the club. He hasn't been such a lightning rod for fan anger, obviously. But if you look at the bravery that Arteta's shown, okay, the self-belief he has and his ability to get the best out of what we know are good players. These guys aren't mugs. These are good footballers. Arteta's self-belief, his bravery, and his ability to communicate clearly with players is all playing a part in the resurgence of the players and the team. I go back to the Fulham at home game, okay, last season. Horrible weather. It was a Monday night, a Wednesday night, something like that. The performance, it was part of a winning streak, was so god-awful, and that was just a barometer of how we were as a team at that time. You're now looking at foundations being built properly, a base of performance, players coming back into form, and we're building as a team. We're still a work in progress, and we're going to be for a long time. But my hat's off to Arteta. He wasn't my first choice for the job, but my God, I'm firmly in his corner.
Yeah, he's made that spine less erratic, hasn't he? Basically, yeah. In terms of players, I know Guendouzi isn't everybody's cup of tea, Jason. But in terms of the kind of having him in there as a mainstay of that midfield under Emery, it caused confusion for that back two as well, because they're not sure what he's going to do. Yeah. Because to be fair, Guendouzi's not sure what he's going to do. But instead, they've now got Xhaka, Torreira was integrated into there. It's made that back four, or that defensive unit anyway, a lot calmer. I think that's where we've seen Mustafi kind of get his resurgence. It's don't worry, mate. It's not just you.
Yeah, and as well as that, okay, if you look at, when Guendouzi came in on Sunday, I thought, oh no, here we go. And to be fair, okay, we did allow chances. They weren't his fault. He was asked to carry the role by Arteta, and he did it, and he nearly created, the goal to seal it all in doing what he was asked to do. So that's really good as well. Karl, you're presenting this now. What are your thoughts on this, mate? Because you're asking all the questions at the moment, but what's your opinion?
I think Arteta has done wonders, and this is why I asked the original question, because for me, it's almost like you have a business and your business is failing, and then what you do, you bring in a brand new manager to try and motivate the staff, and then for somehow that new manager manages to get great performances out of the staff, and they're doing exactly the same job, and they're just doing it differently. I think Arteta, for me, has brought back a bit of self-belief in players. Like Jason, I think you alluded to, you had Torreira playing high up the pitch. As much as we really love Torreira, and we love when he gets up there, and everyone will remember his goal against Spurs last season, the season before, I can't remember which one it was. We love that. However, he was the best defensive midfielder in the Italian league, in Serie A. Why do we think that we can bring him to Arsenal and change him into a different player? Surely, if you bought the player because of his defensive capabilities, why would you not play him in that position? It's things like that which I don't understand. So for me, Arteta, like people have said, he's gone back to basics. Arteta said, do you know what, Torreira? You're good at defending. Do you know what? We're going to play you in the defensive midfield area. Even the whole Ozil thing, which no one's kind of mentioned, that whole nonsense with Ozil and Emery was absolutely ridiculous. It was almost like a circus. For me, it almost seemed like Emery was playing like, I'm the boss, I'm going to tell you. It's almost like he didn't want the star. And, at the time, let's face it, Ozil was the star attraction. Arguably our best player, we can argue against that. But however, it was almost like he didn't want Ozil to play. And even that in the squad, that was nonsense, because I'm sure even the players wanted Ozil in the squad. But because Emery had some vendetta against Ozil for whatever reason, we'll never know. And Ozil's now come back in the squad. No, Ozil's not perfect. He has games where he's good and he's bad. I think his last two games, he's been very, very good. I think against Everton, I thought he was magnificent. He ran himself into the ground. I'm not part of this whole Ozil covers so much ground, blah, blah, blah. It is what it is. However, I think on Sunday against Everton, Ozil, that was probably one of his best games. Although he didn't get assists, I think he was everywhere, and he did tire towards the end. And for me, that's just shows how good Arteta is. He can come in, and a player who basically was on the fringes, never in the squad, to coming back. And like I said, I am no way saying that Ozil is the great player that he was. He has lost a little bit, and it is what it is. I don't think Ozil will never get back to what he was. However, you got a player who is or was one of the greatest passers in the game of football today, and for some reason he wasn't playing under Emery, but as he's coming under Arteta and playing well. So for me, that just shows that it just someone who can come in and bring a bit of belief into the squad, and everything can change around. Like I said, he's got exactly the same amount of players as Emery did. There's nobody new, but he's getting better performances out of these players. So surely that just says that. I don't want to badmouth Emery. I know Simon, Emery's been saying a few things in the press and kind of, I don't want to say badmouthing Arsenal, but he's been letting it know that, he's trying to say that he wasn't to blame for the bad results.
Yeah, I mean, Emery's he's firefighting a bit because he knows he's got to get the job at some point. So I think he's been pretty forthright in saying, it wasn't my fault, it all went wrong. But I think, having a dig at the players' attitude and questioning their output is probably not the best way to go. And I think David Luiz was quite restrained and magnanimous when he sort of refused to bite on it. But I mean, you touched on the Ozil thing there, Karl. I mean, Josh, you'll probably know better than the rest of us, but does this not ring true with what Emery sort of did at PSG, where he tried to take on Neymar? And it almost feels like, I don't know, the Ozil one kind of felt there were games they were playing where Ozil wasn't playing, and it was like, he is definitely good enough to be in this team. You're not picking him out of some sort of statement, or you want to take on the big gun in the dressing room, make a point. And it must have been the same at PSG, because you'd obviously just pick Neymar because he's one of the best, 5-10 players in the world.
Yeah, he took on the wrong clique, I think. I think that's the problem, that because he was so overly reliant on Kolasinac as well, it's, you're still going to, they're best mates. We saw from the video that came out at the beginning of the season with Kolasinac and Ozil in London with that incident. They're good mates. Mustafi is also part of that group as well. You saw the same of when, unfortunately, PSG, that's a bigger kettle of shit, that one, to deal with what was going on there, because not only is Neymar got the big, got Dani Alves there, the big Brazilian contingent, Marquinhos, Thiago Silva's there. All of their star players have also got a route straight around the manager, straight into the chairman, because the chairman, of course, they want to be mates with Neymar. It's Neymar. It's all the same at Chelsea with, how Terry, Lampard and Drogba all had near to Abramovich as well. So if they didn't like a manager, they had direct phone line straight up to Abramovich, because like, Roman, do you want to come over for tea? And they just chat about it and say, oh, by the way, Ranieri, get rid of him. And I think that's one of the problems. Obviously, Ozil didn't have that much level of swing at Arsenal, but it didn't help him trying to take out one of the creative thorns from the side. Which I'd also say, to be honest, Ozil has declined as a player. He was right to bring him out, I think, at that time, but he didn't get the rest of the team to compensate. It's a bit like, when we lost RVP, we lost all those goals, but we weren't 30 goals down that season. We replaced them. People kind of added and got us extra goals in from other points of the park. Ramsey gave us goals after he left. We brought in Giroud came in. With Giroud, we didn't have Eduardo, did we? RVP leaving. Then? Yeah, he'd gone.
Oh, he had, yeah.
By then.
Signed Podolski as well.
And Podolski. We got that kind of. We replaced the goals. We've never really replaced Ozil's assists, which I think is where we've kind of struggled, and why we've kind of brought someone in like Pepe, and why Saka's so important to us at the moment, because he's replaced. Ozil hasn't assisted. He's got one assist this season.
One assist, one goal.
Yeah, and we can continue finding stats to make it seem hilarious with various different players, including goalkeepers, who have got similar numbers of assists this season. But it shows that he's not that final ball merchant that he was previously. He's now either getting more involved further back in the field, or he's not really involved in our best moves.
No one's. I guess no one's arguing that Ozil has declined as a player, and it happens to the best of us. Do you know what I mean? It's inevitable. I think the only thing why it's highlighted so much is because of his wage. I think if he was not on 350 grand or whatever he is on, I don't think anyone would really be talking about Ozil so much. I think it's just the fact that he's on such wage, and people would think, well, if you're on that wage and you command such high wages, you should be doing more. There is an argument for that, I guess. However, you can't. It's nature, isn't it? You're not going to be the same at 31 as you are at 21, 22, 23 when you're at the height of your career. You were playing with the likes of, Ronaldo, Benzema when you're at Real Madrid. As much as I love our players, you're not playing with those sort of players. So it was easy to assist someone like Ronaldo, because Ronaldo would guarantee you minimum 50 goals a season at Real Madrid. That's what Ronaldo did. And as much as good as Aubameyang and Lacazette are, they're not going to give you 50 goals.
Well, I think what we see with Ozil as well is, I know what you're saying with the kind of decline, but I also think just the hunger went from him as well. to say, if you look at his career, you could get pretty close to say he's completed football. You know, World Cup winner. We saw Mertesacker said he had to retire early because he completely lost his hunger from it after he came back from that World Cup winning campaign. And he played, 6 minutes of the whole tournament? Now, if a guy, Ozil, was in the whole thing, and yeah, he was a couple years younger, I think that's the biggest problem, is he's had this kind of gap where he's gone, what do I do now? I've got this huge wage. Great. Do I really fancy going somewhere else? Because is winning the Champions League, is that going to be, he wasn't going to do that at Arsenal, but is that really as good as the World Cup? I don't know. I've never won it, so I can't really say. But from a player point of view, winning such a high trophy, how do you get close to that kind of feeling again? The FA Cup clearly wasn't that kind of level because he won that after he won the World Cup. But
I think as well, if you add into the mix, okay, you're watching confusion being communicated on the training pitch. You're watching a total dearth of creative football when we play. You're watching Nicolas Pepe come in, not played, left on the bench, not allowed to flourish, not put in positions to succeed. And you just kind of think, well, this is a joke. I've worked under Mourinho, I've worked under Ancelotti, I've worked under all these players, these managers, etc. And now we've got Coco the Clown. At some point, you're just going to turn around and say, well, do you know what? Screw it.
It just seems odd because it's not like we didn't score goals under Emery, and he got less than a handful of assists in those goals.
I think the attack's an interesting thing, and I'm doing a preview for the game tomorrow, which I always remember Arteta was in that team where Van Persie, they were so reliant on Van Persie, that Arsenal team, before we left that last season. I was looking at the stats of it, and that team in 2011, 2012, Van Persie had scored 37 goals in all competitions for the team. And the next in the side was Walcott with 11, then Arteta himself with 6. And this attack at the moment is so reliant on Aubameyang. And I really think that whether he stays or whether he doesn't, they need to find some sort of way to try and share the load a bit. I mean, we see it at Liverpool, Mane, Salah, Firmino all chip in, City, haven't even noticed Leroy Sané. And that Arsenal team, the next season when Van Persie left, you had 4 players in double digits. You had Walcott 21 goals, Giroud 17, Podolski 16, Cazorla 12. And I just feel the attack for me, I think Arteta's done well with the defence. I think Luiz Mustafi's great. I just feel the attack at the moment is still a bit Emery-esque, where it's just like, Aubameyang will bail us out a bit. And I haven't really seen, and I think Ozil could be key to that, as we're saying. But at the moment, I haven't really seen enough in attack for me to get my Arteta imprint and what he's trying to do. I still feel a bit, it's like, Aubameyang will save the day or score a couple of goals.
Yeah, just looking through the stats. Was looking through the number of goals we've scored. You say Aubameyang, he's got 19 goals this season. Next one's Martinelli on 10.
Yeah,
I think that's just
What do you think that's down to? Lacazette not playing as well as he could, maybe should do.
Yeah,
I think Lacazette needs to step up 100%.
Yeah, he's got the same number of goals. He's got 8 goals in the same number of appearances as Martinelli this season.
But you look at sort of Lacazette's strength since he joined the club. He likes being the link man. He likes runners coming from deep. We don't have that anymore. You also see the deterioration in Ozil's contribution. There's no more goals coming from midfield, deeper midfield anymore. So the spine of the team, we don't get goals from the spine of the team. It's all from out wide. And, he's not a great header of the ball. He's always been a good link man. You saw the amount of goals where he spins and this dead-eyed shot, etc. That's not been happening. And I think there's a culmination of factors which have, and the outcomes being the form that he's shown since sort of November, December. It's really worrying. You're going to have to find a solution for it, because I got to feel, we all kind of going to have the feeling that one of them's going to go. Lacazette's not going to be worth a hell of a lot with the amount of goals he's got in his back pocket, unless the club really, really wants him. Aubameyang, are you going to get the true value for him? I'm a firm believer in Martinelli. I really am. I think we got a hell of a prospect there. But if you could bring Haaland into that squad as well, leave them both go.
I know there's a dearth of top strikers in Europe at the moment, but I'm struggling to think who's going to come get Lacazette right now, personally.
Atletico, and that's it, isn't it?
No, it's not even Atletico.
Isn't
Because look at who's they've got as strikers. They've got Morata, Diego Costa, João Felix that they spent £120 million on.
Is that the cat food?
Yeah, that's the one. They've got a dearth of strikers as well that they've got to try and move on.
I mean, maybe PSG if Cavani goes, or dare I say it, Chelsea could do with a centre.
But then they've got a Cardi, haven't they, coming in?
Yeah.
So you're looking at it, and it was interesting because I think it was the Mirror that reported that Lacazette might move on if we don't secure Champions League football. I can't think of a single side in the Champions League at the moment, other than maybe Olympiacos because they started there, that he would be going to.
Right, boys. I've got a City in mind, okay? Right on. Inter love to spunk some money on some bad players.
On Premier League players, yeah.
And then you've got AC, who there's some muppet there who, he checkbook Charlie, he'll sign him.
Your old mate Ivan, he's over there.
200 million for Aubameyang and Lacazette. We spent 100 million on Haaland. Okay, cheerio, lads. We're going to strengthen the midfield as well.
I tell you what, though. What about Karl? Let's come to you on this. What about Eddie Nketiah? Because he's probably been one of the most interesting stories since Arteta came in, because we knew he got recalled from Leeds. It was nailed on. He was going out on loan. He got recalled. He's played. He's scoring goals. For me personally, Karl, I'm not convinced he's going to make it at Arsenal. What do you think?
I'm kind of saying we had a brief discussion on the show on Sunday after the Everton game, and I'd keep him at Arsenal as a backup player, but whether I would ever trust him to start, would you ever trust him to start against Tottenham or Liverpool or a team like that? No, you wouldn't. Like you, Simon, I don't think he'll make it at Arsenal. I think he will. His future lies away from Arsenal. And the thing is, you look at him and he's come in and, he obviously scored against Everton and Arteta has seen something in him. However, there's just something that you think that he would be doing much more. And do you know what? I can't tell you what more he needs to do. He's scoring goals, he's making chances, and at the moment, would you say he's playing better than Lacazette? Nah, Lacazette's kind of on the rise now. He's got 2 goals in his last 2 games, so he's getting better. But I just don't think Nketiah is going to make it at Arsenal. And it's the dream. I'd love him to be there, someone to come through the academy, scoring goals. I'd love him to be, the next Van Persie, the next Ian Wright, the next whoever. However, I just can't see it, and I can't tell you why. Is it because he's a little slight? Does he need to beef up a little bit? But is that going to ruin his game if he does that? I just think that if he was going to be in the squad, he'd be in the squad by now properly. I just think that he was a stopgap, because I truly think when Arteta first took over, I think he saw it. He saw that I can't just rely on Aubameyang. I think even when Arteta first come in, Lacazette weren't doing really much. So he's probably looked at that and thought, well, Lacazette is kind of struggling a little bit and I've got no cover. Yes, he could have played Martinelli, but for some reason he didn't. But yeah, I just don't think he's going to make it at Arsenal.
So I think Martinelli, this is one of the weird thoughts I have in the shower, and I'll quickly clear it up before it goes anywhere else.
What a thought.
We got Martinelli straight from Brazil. So his season finished in January and then, came straight into us. So he's not really had any kind of time off from us. He came straight in and has played like an entire season. This is almost us giving him time off. Almost, because he played the January until the summer when we got him. We've given him 4 weeks off, given him a couple of games here and there, but we've dropped our reliance on him. And it's almost like we're giving him like a pre-season again because he needs to rest. I think that's the only reason why we've seen him drop out at the moment. As for Nketiah, I could go on for hours of why Bielsa didn't fancy him and why he won't make it at Arsenal.
But look, we're looking at what we want from a player when we need to be looking at, right, what are the player's main attributes, okay? If I'm Mikel Arteta, okay, right, it's like, you know, being an awkward dad, okay, trying to teach your son about sex, okay? Here you go, lad. There's some wank mags. Crack on, you know, have a look at those and you'll be all right. What he needs to do, okay? Oh, Jermaine Defoe, come down here. There you go, Eddie Nketiah. Watch a load of Jermaine Defoe videos. Look at his movement. Look, you know, you're a small guy who's nippy, not great creatively, but will give you goals. This is the way you can develop, okay? Have some training sessions, Defoe. Bring him along that way. Then you need to bring somebody in, like your link-up play. You've got to be stronger back to goal. You've got to be able to, you know, anticipate where your teammates are coming from. This is the work we do on the training pitch, which is going to stand you in good stead. And the next thing is you've got to be fearless. You've got to take pot shots. Who cares if you miss 4 good opportunities? If you're scoring 2, you're more than often going to win the game. You know, it's this sort of thing you need to look at with him. And, you know, he's obviously had a difficult time at Leeds. It hasn't gone the way he wanted it to. You know, there's this wank fest over Bielsa at the moment, and Bielsa's almost has rejected him. Now, you know, that's difficult for any young player, but, you know, he's not costing us anything, really. Let's look to develop him and develop him well. Michael Owen, Jermaine Defoe, they're players he can model his game on. And, you know, they score important goals.
I mean, talking about scoring important goals, our next couple of fixtures, I think they're kind of winnable. So we've got Olympiacos on Thursday, which is a round that we know that we're going to win that. Well, we hope we're going to. Then we've got Portsmouth away in the FA Cup on Monday. That's the sort of game where you'd say to someone like Nketiah and maybe even Lacazette, go and fill your boots. So I'm assuming that everyone thinks that we're going to win against Portsmouth. I would say yes.
It's Fratton Park. Anything could happen on that one. That's like a proper...
We're going to win by 4. We're going to win by 4. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you'd hope that even though it is away, you are hoping that we'd go to Portsmouth, and you would say to someone like Nketiah and someone like Martinelli and someone like Lacazette, you know, go and win the game. And because you're hoping that that's the sort of game that Aubameyang would not play in. I mean, maybe have him on the bench, but definitely I would say there's no need to bring someone along the lines of Aubameyang.
It'll be like an Nketiah up top with Willock. It'll be the same as what we saw in the previous round against Bournemouth. To be honest, will be Willock at the kind of number 10 position. The only thing I'd worry about is Nketiah isn't great when he's up against a tight, packed defence. That Everton game kind of played into his strengths because there was at least space for him to run into. Because as we've just mentioned, he's not a creative player. He's not great with his back to goal. He needs someone to feed him. And while we haven't really got, you know, it'd be perfect. We had Mesut Ozil. That is the perfect player to be for Eddie Nketiah. Someone that can just constantly feed him a good supply of decent balls into him. But at the moment, we've seen it with Lacazette. He's got to create his own stuff. You know, the creativity's got to be shared around the side at the moment. And you've got to have a bit about you at this moment in time in the Arsenal to be able to create chances for other people as well as for yourself.
True. After the Portsmouth game, we've got West Ham at home. Now, West Ham, they're on a dire, and hopefully Fabianski can do what he did against Liverpool and just get a couple of goals in. I was so angry when that happened. You're thinking that we're going to win that, Simon? Do you think that West Ham at home is a winnable game?
Yeah, I think this next run of games is a really, really winnable run of games and a key run of games, because I remember looking at it when the sort of trouble was brewing with Emery, and it was that Leicester game before the international break, and the sort of vote of confidence came out and all this stuff. And we had those run of games after the break, remember, didn't we? It was Southampton, Frankfurt, Brighton, West Ham, Norwich, all these sort of games. And it was, it was depending what school of thought you said. Someone said, oh, look, this is the chance for Emery to turn it around. He's got a nice run of games. Or it was, this is the run of games you've got to give a new manager because they're a good run. And Arsenal sort of missed the boat with these games earlier on in the season because it was all part of the Emery downfall and the Lundberg interim period. So really, if you actually look at our record, Arsenal dropped a lot of points in these games before. So now they've got to take advantage of it. Go and get, 13, 15 points out of these next 5 games. Because if you look as well at the end of the season, there's a little run, I think, where you've got Leicester, Man City, Liverpool, Spurs, these sort of games to come. So they've really got to take this chance now and apply some pressure to that top 4. Because if they don't use these 5 games, then any chance of qualifying for the Champions League via the league will be gone.
I'd go stronger than that. I'd look at 18 points from 6 games. Okay, I think that's got to be the target. And I know it's ambitious, but we're at a point in the season now where you can, I know we're going to talk about it a bit later, but concentrating on certain competitions. The league is your bread and butter. If we want to thrive in all competitions, you get your league form right, and that will filter through into other competitions. So, I know, okay, the Wolves and Leicester games are going to be difficult. Southampton have had a resurgence in form. I know they're on a bit of a roller coaster recently, but these are eminently winnable games. Leicester are at home, I know. Wolves at Molineux, that's a tough place to go. But Norwich, that's at home, is it?
Norwich is at home.
Yeah, Norwich
at home.
We've never won at Brighton away in the league.
Well, it's about time we fucking started to win there, isn't it? Because they're not a good side. They're not a good side. Let's send them down.
I think there's a crucial part in April when we got the scum, and then we have Liverpool in the league, the game after. That's the kind of, you're looking at that. If we can, even before that, we got Leicester. So you're looking at that and thinking, if we can win the games before, I never want to lose a game, but you got to be logical and think Spurs away is no matter who they got, and even if they have got no one up front, which I probably think by then Harry Kane would have been given so much drugs he'd be back. Allegedly, let me just say that that I think that he'll be back before then, and he loves to score a penalty against us, especially if it's in that toilet bowl of a stadium. And then Liverpool at home, they would have won the league by then. Let's be honest, and. I guess that's a bit of pride because they're still unbeaten. Then there's no way we are not going to want to try and be the team to break the unbeaten run. Liverpool at the moment are phenomenal, but if you're being realistic, do you think right now we could beat Liverpool at all, whether it's home or away? Probably not. But with a run of games, and if we win and performances and belief, who knows what could happen.
We also have a rescheduled City game to fit in there.
That's
just
at the
to
end
make
of the
it a little
season,
easier. Well, probably be somewhere at some point.
To be confirmed. Yes, sorry.
Yeah, it's TBD.
Yeah.
I guess that'd be dependent on how far we go and they go in the Champions League and Europa Cup, wasn't it?
And FA Cup as well.
Yeah.
They'll slide in an FA Cup weekend with the quarterfinals or semis if one of us doesn't make it, or both of us don't make it. Sorry.
It's difficult. Look, I know. The Premier League's not easy. We know that, okay? But, our next league game is West Ham at home. You've got to be winning that. Then you're looking at Brighton away. Where are they in the league at the moment, Josh?
They're in that kind of also runs between 11th and 17th. So they're probably about 15th.
Yeah. Okay, so they're in trouble, right?
Yeah, the only thing I would say is they've played very well against the big sides. That's the only caveat. They've been awful against mid-table sides. So it depends where you want to put Arsenal at the moment.
I was going to say, they're playing the mid-table side, aren't they?
Depends where you want to put Arsenal. But they're a better side than the ones that have beaten us before under Chris Hughton.
Yes.
I'd say on that.
Then we got Southampton away.
Banana skin.
It is
a banana skin, but... what their form hasn't been great recently. They've had that little roller coaster run. Okay, they're gonna be fighting for their lives as well. Well, they're up in 12th at the moment. They're not far off us, are they?
No.
So then you got Norwich at home, right? Wolves away, Leicester at home. Those are games. So you've got to be ambitious in those games, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, this will be the run that will decide what the end of the season is going to look like. These 5 games, and Arteta will be absolutely aware of that. And it's worked out quite nicely because we spoke about that run where you could have had Leicester, Spurs, City. Arteta's going to have these 5 games again while he's still implementing his ideas, while he's still implementing his philosophy. So you hopefully by the end of that season, when you play those games, he's further along in terms of his progression. But these 5 league games are absolutely massive. And these were the games that we spoke about. They stumbled upon at the start of the season. They lost to Brighton at home. They drew at Norwich. They can't afford to drop these points. So I mean, there's a question that comes up later on, but where this team could be, if they hadn't drawn so many games, dropped so many points. I mean, still in contention of that top 4, just about on points. And it dropped that many points. So it really is a pivotal run. And also these 2 games now, the Europa League game and the FA Cup are also crucial. I think for me, the FA Cup is very much a bonus this season. The Europa League is the one you've really got to go for because you get to the Champions League. Great if you win the FA Cup for Mikel, but really it's about getting in that Champions League. And that's why it's got to be Europa League and League is the priority. And the FA Cup is a bonus. And
you look at it, guys, okay? So, was it 5th at the moment? That's Man United on 41 points. We're 4 points behind them. Goal difference is a bit of a mess. But we're only 7 behind 4th. And Chelsea. And they're not in great form. So, Karl, I put it to you. Are we, you look at Mikel Arteta, you look at the kind of personality he is. Don't tell me he's not looking at 4th with greedy eyes.
I mean, he is. However, I think the amount yes, I think it's all doable, 100%. But if you look at the teams above us, I mean, I look at someone like Sheffield United who literally have 1 game a week and they're just not getting tired. And you look at them and you compare them to the Leicester side of 2016 when they won the league and everyone was saying, they're going to drop off, they're going to drop off. And you look at them and they're thinking, well, no, they're not going to drop off. They're carrying on and they're doing well. And credit to the manager for getting them up there. Manchester United, they're always going to be hit and miss, aren't they? I think the way they're playing, who knows what Man United are going to turn up. One day they could be the team that, draws Liverpool and does well. And the next day you could be the team that loses at home to Burnley 2-0. So it's very weird. Chelsea are, again, they're going to be out of the Champions League, aren't they, soon? So they're going to be on the 1 game a week. And I think Frank Lampard, if he gets them playing, he'll do well. However, they're another team that is very, very hit and miss. So it's really weird with them. And I think we're looking at it, and I know with the whole Man City thing, 5th can get Champions League, but we got to be trying to aim for the top 4. It's just really difficult at the moment, just because even Arsenal are their own worst enemy. You could look at, like we was talking about, you could look at those run of games and think, yeah, Arsenal should win them easily, and then we go and lose at home, we go and lose away to Southampton, and you think, why would we do that sort of thing? I think, as much as I want Arsenal to win, we have to almost rely on teams above us dropping a lot of points, and it is the likes of the Sheffield, I can't believe I'm saying this, Sheffield United and Wolves, they've got to drop points, and we put ourselves in a really terrible position, and it's annoying that we're down there. However, I think we had this last season, Jason, when we was talking about should we be looking at teams above us or teams below us, and I remember having this conversation, and we've got to be where we are. We're very precarious because we've got to look at teams above and below. I don't think we'll be dragged any lower than we are now. I really don't. However, we've got to be looking at teams above us to drop points, and we are looking at them, and hopefully we can capitalize on, the fragility of, who knows what Sheffield United are going to do, who knows what Wolves are going to do, who knows what, even I think Everton are 2 points behind us, 3 points behind us, maybe something along them lines. So it's very tight. I mean, apart from the runaway leaders of and even them, they've got apparently no strikers. I still think Mourinho will somehow. I know they're talking about Harry Kane being out for the rest of the season. I can't see it. I just think that you'll somehow magically he'll come back like he always does, because he always has like a 7-week gap out of every season, and then somehow he comes back, and wouldn't surprise me if he came back for the Arsenal game. I just think that Mourinho is a master of the dark arts, isn't he? He's not a very good manager, but he gets results, and that's the thing about Jose. So Tottenham will be there and or thereabouts.
Helps if VAR fuck up as well and make sure that your best player currently doesn't get sent off.
Yes. Bone of contention, that one. But yeah, it's so I think that 5th is definitely gettable. 4th, I think that maybe just pushing it a little bit, if I'm really honest.
I think the one thing you boys got to remember as well is, okay, if you look at the game on Sunday, okay, we've come off the back of 2 wins. They've scored just before half time. Come out in the second half and scored straight off the bat. Pressure counts. And the more we apply pressure to the teams above us, the more they're going to falter. Once you've got that winning streak going, okay, the pressure of a chasing team on form, you've got to be excellent to be able to withhold that. And I don't think until you get to, actually Liverpool, I think even City have been awful this season. I don't think any of those teams can withstand it. Leicester and City got too much in the bag already. But everybody else, I think, is fair game. But, we go from there.
Okay. I am going to pass it over to Josh, who is going to ask some listeners' questions.
I thought I was doing Fast Forum.
Either way. Simon, then.
Should I do Fast Forum?
You do Fast Forum, and then we'll do some listener questions.
Because Fast Forum was on the subject that we've just been talking about, roughly, or so, that if Arteta had been our manager since the start of the season, where would we be in the table? So we've got a few replies in from this one. Matt L. Roberts says probably around top 8. Cactus Cash, that is Richard from the live shows. He reckons we'd have dropped about 9 points or so. Thinks we would have beaten Brighton, Watford, Palace, Southampton. So about 4th, maybe chasing down 3rd. Mr. Fee, who's at No Laguna, was going at least top 5 as well. There's plenty of other games that we've also cited in that run.
He's the guy who does Guna Gra.
Does he?
I think he's the guy who does Guna Gra in New Orleans.
Who else we got in here? Someone, the Highbury Inn, which I think is one of the many personalities of Danny on Twitter. He said we would be 2nd or 3rd, and Jason and John would not be on doctor's orders to avoid Arsenal until 2025. I think that's about right. I'm not sure that's explicitly what John's orders are from the doctor, but leave that one. And finally, from Tone, who's at Tone 74662527, which I think is also John's pager number for all the ladies out there. And he said probably 15th. Which seems about right for that one. And I think that was everything that I've got from Fife's Forum. Yeah.
Nice. I'll give it some listener questions if people want. We'll start with all 3 of you guys can answer this one. Our very own Ellis, Jose Mourinho, Sean Dyche, Tony Poulis, Snog Marry, bludgeon to death with a hammer. I mean, you don't have to bludgeon them to death, but we'll start with you, Jace, and then we'll go Karl and then Josh.
Oh. Can I shoot myself in the head? Suicide is painless. Sorry.
Karl?
Bludgeon Mourinho to death. You got to in it. Like, he's just...
Sorry, why can't we bludgeon them all 3 to death?
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, bludgeon them all.
Surely. But yeah, Mourinho's the one I bludgeoned to death. Sorry, I can't. I have such a dislike for him. And it's nothing to do with, back in the day, he was a very good manager, but I still cannot forgive him for all that Wenger stuff. I'm going to protect my own. I really have to. And Arsene Wenger should have bottled him many, many, many years ago.
Well, I was going to marry Jose, to be honest, because have you seen how much he gets in those settlements from clubs when he gets sacked? I'm living the high life there. I mean, at Man United, he stayed at the Lowry, so I'm in the house on my own down in London. Sounds fucking great.
With his daughter.
Yep. Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Although, would that be my daughter? That's weird. Hang on. This has got too hypothetical.
Stepdaughter made you fine.
Yeah, I'll be all right. I've seen the videos online now. It's all the rage with your stepdaughter.
You've got a renowned journalist on the show, and look what you're saying. Jeez. Sorry, Simon.
Oh, dear.
He's thinking with a golf course. Don't worry about him.
Yeah. He's all right. He's going to interview Jose Mourinho and just give him this little snippet and say,
Yeah.
What do you reckon? What do you
Have your
reckon?
thoughts on
Swipe left or right on this?
Yeah.
I don't know between Sean Dyche and Tony Pulis. I don't think I could bludgeon to death Sean Dyche. I think his head's too, it's made of granite, isn't it? He's just going to be too hard. I'm going to have to snog him because I think I could actually kill Tony Pulis. So, yeah, Ellis, there's your actual answers.
You like a bit of ginger, don't you?
Well, there we go.
I am.
I think that is probably the silliest question with the bunch. But I'll go one bit more serious. Let's have a think. Right, you can all have this one as well because it shouldn't need to carpenter the answer. So it's a question from Cactus Cash. What player were you convinced was going to be an Arsenal great, but then never made it? Mine was Fran Raider. I saw him against Liverpool in the then Carling Cup and was convinced he was going to be the next big thing. No idea what he's up to now. In brackets, I'm refusing to look it up. Sounds very Danny, that. So, guys, we'll start with Karl this time. What was the player you thought was going to be the next big thing at Arsenal and didn't quite
Carlos
make it?
I remember
the Chip King.
That was the one. I remember in the League Cup, he scored.
Sheffield United, was it? Sheffield United.
That was it, yeah. And I literally thought, this guy is going to make it at Arsenal. And I think that's probably one of the last goals he ever scored for Arsenal. And he just disappeared, and we sold him, and now he's tearing it up in the MLS. But yeah, he's definitely one of the players I thought was going to make it and never did.
Josh?
I know Fran Merida's in the Spanish second division, if that helps. But who would I think? I've got to be on brand. Iwobi?
Big 17.
No, Aaron Ramsey.
You've stolen Jace's answer. Jace, what were you going to say, mate? Were you going to say Ramsey as well?
Excuse me.
Oh, God. Listeners, he's got his dolly out.
Aaron.
Is that a voodoo doll?
You haven't seen the full size one he's got in his bedroom.
Hey, I get cuddles. There's two, to be honest. Ox was one. I really thought Ox was going to be an absolute Alisson legend. And the other one, Philippe Senderos. I thought Senderos was going to be, the next big centre half, and unfortunately, Drogba ruined him. And he got to chuck in Eduardo, but that's just purely down to a broken leg.
Yeah, that was cruel.
Yeah, that was just harsh. That was, but they're proper answers for you. Not talking about the club's leading all-time scorer from central midfield and winning cups off his own.
Mine was that lad Serge Gnabry, but he seems to have made it elsewhere, so that's all right. Let's do Yeah, he's doing all right, that lad, isn't he?
I wonder how Tony Pulis feels now.
Yeah, I wonder who he'd pick. Shoot, Shag, Marry, and Tony Pulis, Joe. Right. Next question, Matt L. Roberts. Is there any players, past or present, excluding Jace's favourite Welshman, that you would take back right now? Can make a top 5, so starting 11 if you wished. All right. Well, let's go for one player you could have from. Let's go back from 2000, from the turn of the century. If you could have one player in this team now, who would you pick? Let's start with Josh this time.
We're going to pick someone from the invincible side, aren't we? When we're given that option, other than Jason, who's picking Ramsey, I would have. Oh, it's Dennis Bergkamp, isn't it?
Mm.
I think sitting in behind Aubameyang. Yeah. Imagine, just imagine.
Wouldn't mind a bit of that. Jace,
Eduardo.
Fully fit Eduardo up front.
Fully fit Eduardo.
Feeding off Mesut.
Yeah, it's either him or Cesc.
Oh, yeah.
It's simple as, okay? Either one of those two. I love those two.
Karl.
Patrick Vieira, I think.
Oh, yeah, good shout.
Patrick Vieira and Xhaka in the middle. And you just say to Ozil, go forward, and you just tell Patrick Vieira and Xhaka just to sit, and Patrick could do that box to box and fill in left, right. I think those two together in midfield. I'm not going to say they're going to be the next Vieira and Petit, but I think they'd make a very good partnership.
Tell you what, boys, murder on the dance floor comes to mind.
Mm.
Come on, Simon. Come on, Scoop. Yours?
Right. What, in terms of who would I have?
Yeah.
Oh, Christ. I mean, because thing is, you couldn't really have Henry because you've already got Pierre doing that role. I would be very tempted. For me, I would be tempted to have Cesc. I just think he's such an all-action midfielder. I mean, I really think. I mean, he was great in his time he was, but I think even now in the modern game, I think he'd be even better when he was in his pomp. I think such a good player and a leader as well. I mean, Vieira's a great shout because I haven't really seen a player like Vieira since he left. But yeah, Cesc or Vieira for me.
Or like a Sol Campbell as well in that defence.
Yeah.
Sol Campbell next to David Luiz.
Sol Campbell just for his imagine Sol Campbell in the modern era of social media and Instagram. It'd be be a dream. We got last question. There's two from Noir Confidential. One of them is sort of revolved around Xhaka and Saka, which we've covered quite a bit, so I'll leave that one. But the other one is, what are your thoughts on the rumours regarding Arsenal's attempt to bring Santi Cazorla back to the club? Do you think he'll be a player coach until he joins Arteta's staff permanently? Mikel allegedly asked Santi about this when he was taking the job. I mean, the latest with Cazorla, the club definitely want to do some sort of testimonial match. But what do you guys think? We'll start with Jace on this one about Santi coming back, maybe to play a bit and then become a coach, or do you kind of want to just leave that and let it go and maybe have a game to give him a goodbye? What's your views on it?
All right, he's earned enough money off us that he doesn't need a testimonial. A farewell game, fine for charity, magic. No problem there, okay? Look, the poor guy nearly lost his leg. The Premiership was too quick for him when he got injured. That's the truth of the matter. All this sort of rose-tinted glasses looking back at his time in midfield. He dominated one big game, truth be told. He didn't set the tempo week in, week out. He's a magic player. He's enjoying himself in Spain. Let him enjoy his football. Let him enjoy his autumn years in Spain in a league that suits his skill set, suits his physicality. And then if he wants to come in as a coach, great. But let's make sure if anybody's coming into our coaching staff, they got the necessary badges and they're great communicators and they're able to get the best of their players. Not going back looking for nonsense because we loved the player once. Okay? I wouldn't bring Aaron Ramsey back. I wouldn't. I know, that ship has now sailed. I'm annoyed with the way he left, but I wouldn't bring him back. And Santi Cazorla, definitely not. Look for the best people for the job. A farewell game. Actually, I don't even give a shit about that because guess what? Lots of players have left us without a farewell. It's by the by.
Josh?
Yeah, I think the last I saw was it was a friendly in pre-season versus Villarreal, which you could dress up as the guise of Santi Cazorla might be there. But look, he's 35 now. He might get into the Euro squad for Spain. And yeah, I can't see any reason why we'd want to bring back a 35-year-old player to be in the mainstay of our midfield, or even just to play a bit part in our midfield. We've got young guys coming through the academy, like Joe Willock. We've already seen Burton go off to Zagreb.
Dynamo Zagreb, yeah.
Yeah, he's gone off to. So we've clearly got strength and depth coming in from the academy for a position that Santi would, in theory, fill. So if he's coming in as a coach. The only thing I'd kind of wonder is we know he was a massive joker in the dressing room, but that's not what you necessarily want from a coach. You know, we've just talked about Arteta's praises of how good a disciplinarian he is. Now, I can't see Santi being the same. He's going to be like the good cop to Arteta's bad cop. And we've already got Ljungberg kind of doing that role of bringing the player, transitioning them from the academy and being that kind of ear to those kind of players. I'm not sure what Santi kind of gives us from that, anything extra, other than he's just a great guy. But as Jay said, I don't want just great guys coming into my football club. We're Arsenal. We're a bit bigger than just getting nice people coming in.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. Karl, what about you? Where you stand on it?
I'll sum it up quickly. I don't think we need a 35-year-old centre midfielder back in the squad. Sentiment is nice in football, but Arsenal at the moment, we don't have time for sentiment. We're currently in 9th position in the Premier League. A 35-year-old centre mid is not going to improve us no matter what way you look at it. If he wants to come as a coach, hopefully he has make sure he gets his coaching badges, and then if he's a good enough coach, then so be it. But as a player, absolutely not.
Fair enough. That is all the listener questions. So I think just left for some shout outs. Is that right, gents?
Yes, I will. I guess no one's got their shout outs ready because I know I definitely haven't. So first one I will go to, because Josh is shaking his head. I'm going to go to you, Simon, because you're a journalist. You should always be prepared.
I'm going to take a different. I'm going to shout out someone on the pod. I'm going to shout out our very own Mr. Davis, Jace, for his fine work. We all know about our good friend Dave Goonaholic. He had his funeral a couple of weeks ago, and from everyone I speak to who was there and helping him do it a bit, Jace gave a fantastic eulogy to him, befitting of the man. And I just think, hats off to you, Jace, for everything you've done for him, as we all have. And I think a worthy shout out this week.
Oh, cheers, mate.
Josh, who's your shout out?
Why do we always have to go after the really deep and meaningful ones? And you know, man, just going to be a fucking piss take.
Yours an apology to Tony Pulis for bludgeoning him to death or something.
Oh, do you know what? Actually, Josh, thank you for that. I was nearly going to shed a tear there.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, cheers, mate. That's all right. Yeah, Jace, you did all right. Cheers. No worries.
Cheers, bro.
Yeah. Right. My shout out then, for what it's fucking worth, would be to @AFH Stewart. That's Alex Stewart from Tifo Football, because we have been chatting a little bit. Don't worry, guys. They don't want me. I'm not good enough.
Aww. Jace, who's yours?
I'm going to give 2 this week. Noir Confidential. Great to have him back on Twitter and contributing to the questions again. He's a stalwart of a listener, and he's part of the pod. And then there's Sunny M, which is @SS Mudhar, MUDHAR 1986. Sunny always listens to the live show regularly, so shout out for those 2 wrong ends.
Okay.
And thank you, Simon. Thank you.
Good. I'm going to have 2 as well, just because I can. One is to Danny. I'm not going to go deep and meaningful. Danny does a lot of work for this. He moans a lot. Don't get it wrong. Danny moans and moans and moans because he's a miserable bastard. But he does do a lot. And to say thank you for everything you do, Danny. He's still an idiot. And my next one is also to Jimmy R. That's DCU_Gooner. He's a good boy. I've never known. He watches, I think, just as much football as Chris Carpenter does. He watches every single game and he knows everything. So shout out to Jimmy R.
He's superb. He
even goes to games as well. That's the mad thing. Someone who watches that much football also goes to games.
Yeah, he's watches a lot, and yeah, that's him. Right, that is your lot, listeners. Thank you to everyone. Thank you to all you listener questions.
Bear with me. Live show this week, Olympiacos. After the game, it's our Josh hosting, and he's joined by Ellis and Gav from She-War.
Oh, blimey.
Who's
Look
Ellis?
out, you go herding cats.
I know, right?
Shoot, marry, snog, bludgeon to death. Josh Ellis.
Can I choose on that one? Do I get a choice in this?
Oh gosh! Right, so all that's left to say is thank you, Jason.
Yeah, great. I've really enjoyed this one, boys. It's been a long time supported you with you three reprobates, so that's been thoroughly pleasurable.
All good. Josh, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's been a long old podcast. Check it out. Danny's going to be going ape shit. Hour and 45 minutes.
I know, but to be honest, fuck Danny, innit? And journalism royalty, Simon, thank you for sharing your time with us.
Thank you, guys. It's been very, very enjoyable. Had a great laugh.
And all left to say is see you next time. Happy listening and goodbye. And Jason, press that button. Oh, also, sorry, hashtag fuck Ellis.
Somebody's going to say it. Somebody's going to say switch this shit off.
Switch the shit off, Jason, and see you all next Tuesday. No, Thursday.
Day after tomorrow.
Or see you next tomorrow. All works. I'm all calling you cunts.